a timer.
Okay. All right, so Sarah, you can take notes? Okay, and Kendall, you wanna keep track of time?
I got my timer going.
Okay. All right, so we always have to make sure that we're focused on the goal that we want our kids to be improving as we're getting closer to FSA. We need to really think about the process or the progress that the kids have made on their STAR tests, knowing that STAR is not always as accurate as we want it to be, but we do need to consider that. So I don't have mine summarized. I have mine for each kid, and you do. You guys both have yours as well for the kids. So I think we just need to make sure that we're looking at the kids and seeing whether they've gone up or down consistently throughout the year, and then
Make sure they're on track.
right, make sure
To
they're on
progress.
track. See what we can do to maybe boost those kids that have maybe been spiraling down or have been fluctuating a little bit. You guys think that's okay? So some of our kids are making the growth every single time, and so we're expecting they're gonna keep continuing, but the kids that are bouncing a little bit, we need to figure out, and then we can talk about that in a little bit when we figure out what we can do for their, like between now and FSA, and how we can keep moving that up. You guys both have data sheets on your
Yes.
kids, right? So, so when the quarter ends, we'll have pull those out again and have the kids reflect on the goal that they set for their third 9 weeks, and then set a goal for the fourth 9 weeks and let them review their FSA data too. I think that would be good. I think I'm kind of getting into our action plan a little bit, but oh well. Okay, so the next thing that we've got coming up is our quarter exam for next week. So one of the things I was wondering how you guys did was when you do a review with your kids, do you do it all together? Do you let the kids work on it independently with a partner? I always sort of struggle with it because I feel like the kids that can do it independently, I don't have too many of them, but those kids that can might be held back if I'm doing it whole group. The kids that don't get it really need the support. So I was just kind of wondering what you guys do with your review time.
I do a little bit of all of the above.
Okay.
Some of the kids prefer to work by themselves and only by themselves. Some love to have a partner so they can actually walk each other through the problems when they don't get it. Some need me to do it, so they kind of do a little bit by themselves. They do a little bit in the group, and then we as a group go over the questions that they have. If they have some that.
So then do you have an
Yeah.
answer key that they then check their work when they're done, or
Yes.
do you just run through your answers?
Both.
Okay.
Some of the kids who get through quickly compared to others can actually go and check their answers and
Okay.
find out what questions they have right then and there. Others have to work a lot longer, so then we kind of go through it as a group, and then, of course, they can pull it up on Teams at home and go through their stuff as well.
I would like to be able to send it home for homework and all the kids do it and come back and we just check it. That hasn't worked out for me because some of them do it and then while we're going over it, they're not paying any attention, and then the other kids haven't done any of it, so they're just writing nonstop and they're also not paying attention, they're just copying it down. So what's worked best for me, it's not perfect, is we usually will talk about a few problems, like what the learning target was and what we review the vocabulary or anything, and then they'll work on those either independently or in a group, and then we'll review those group of a few problems. So we break it up into
Into sections.
into the different things that we've learned. But it's still the same with the higher kids, that they are done faster and then they're waiting a little bit for the other kids. And they wanna go on to the rest of it, but if I let them do that, then they're gonna be done with the whole thing before the others, so it's not perfect.
Yeah. So I think on Monday, part of my review, I'm gonna start my review tomorrow, but they're gonna need several days to do what I've got prepared. But I think what I'll do is have them make a decision whether they want to work with a partner or on their own, like you've done, Kendall. And then I'll have answers ready for those kids that have finished early enough, but I think I'll have them then work on Khan Academy. If they're done and they don't have questions, and I'll just circulate around the room. And then the classes that I've got, Mr. Barclay, I think I'll have him take the kids that I know are gonna struggle the most because consistently they have, and have him work through the problems with them. break up a little bit, so he can do a guided lesson with them. And then I can do checking in with kids who are struggling and needing the help, and then the kids who can do it independently.
I may do what I did yesterday. I typically try to incorporate some kind of game with the review, just so they're not so bored. And I did a new one yesterday. Is a hundreds grid up on the board, and after they completed 3 problems, they had to bring it to me, so they're working independently, and they could do any 3 problems, and then I would check them. If they got them all 3 right, they put their initials on a grid, and at the end of class, I did the random number drawer, and so if I chose 34, whoever was on that got an airhead or a mechanical pencil.
Oh, so they don't fill in all of them,
Yeah.
they have to, they're gambling.
Right.
You're
It's
teaching
random.
gambling.
It's random, but the more you
It
do,
is
the better
math.
options. And then I gave some for like, okay, you're
Probability, oh, I like it.
some were like, you're really on task, you're not bothering anybody. So I wasn't sure how it would go with them having to work and then come up to me, but it went really well, even with 4th period, which is
Your
my
hardest
hardest
period.
class and biggest. So I may do something similar to that for the review.
That's a good idea. Put that down as a, like that idea, that's a good, idea for reviewing or anything, just to get them to stay on task.
If you want game ideas, I have a lot.
Game ideas, all right. Sarah's good at game ideas.
So every 3 problems, they get a sticky note to put up there?
No, I like had it on the board and they just wrote on the,
Oh, they
so it was on like a PowerPoint and I displayed it, so it was just a giant 100 grid and they just wrote their initials in.
But every 3 questions that they get correct, they get to go?
Yeah,
So
and you
kind
can change the number based on, there was 12 problems on our review yesterday. So
So in
that just
theory-
worked out where they weren't constantly coming to me, because if I did every problem, there would be a line.
If you do hard and fast, some kids get more names up there.
And I let them, like if they didn't get it right, you could go back and then fix it and get it right. Didn't lose your opportunity to sign your name. Just took them a little longer.
It's kind of like the Super Bowl. Grid game.
Choose a number.
All right. So are you guys both comfortable with the exams?
Yeah.
And reviews and stuff? I know Sarah and I for the core, I know Kendall, you're doing the advanced, so it's a little bit different, but we decided to go ahead and start putting in some multiple choice. Are you,
I was looking at the same thing.
okay, so that
because-
we can start getting some FSA style questions.
And can get more questions on the test compared to pure open-ended.
Okay,
Ours is about half and half, I think.
yeah,
And we're still doing, it is even numbers on Tuesday, odd numbers on Wednesday,
right,
and in first period both days.
right. Yeah, so first period probably end up splitting, well, you don't have a first period math, but split the exam so that they don't have the whole thing. I think that's what I'm gonna do, is just give them like 1 page front and back that they work on. If they finish early, they can either work on redoing reviews that they may have got stuck on, or working on Khan Academy, fact practice on extra math. So they're still getting some, and I think Khan Academy's got some good, like if I can direct them to what areas to work on that will help them be prepared for the exam as well, so. And they have good questions that are challenging, so. Okay, all right, so now the big part about when we get back after vacation, looking at finishing teaching standards and reviewing and getting ready for FSA. So, Kendall, what have you done in the past for FSA prep? Do you have stuff that you've used, or?
Yeah, got the, there's like the question per day kind of thing.
Okay.
Where we try to do at least one or so every day, and then I give them a pretty hefty little packet that has as much as possible as far as review goes, so that they can actually work on that. That becomes homework during the next 9 weeks instead of constant normal homework, because we'll be doing more review, so.
And
So it's
Okay.
paper pack.
is it the countdown to FSA, that kind of thing, or
That's
is it a
of them,
one a
yes.
day? Okay. And I have some, because I know Sarah, you're new to 6th grade, so I have some packets that I've made copies of that are by standard, and they're just a few questions per standard. And I think maybe we can pull in those learning, the achievement level descriptors too, and use those, cause we haven't, necessarily used them, all of them. Or it would be good, even the ones that we
Yeah,
have
they
had a
have
chance to use,
Yeah, they won't.
to be able to pull them back out and say, okay, now,
They won't remember.
which ones of these can you do? Like, on this standard, are you feeling like you're a level 2 or a level 3 or level 4 or level 5?
I'll give something they know they need to focus on, if they're scoring lower on some of the
Right,
stuff.
so like my packets might be a little bit more basic, which I think that my students will need that. They'll need to review just the basic stuff, so I wanna run through those and then maybe mix in some of the, so that it's not all drudgery day after day of the same thing.
So we have 6 weeks from the time we come back, 6 full weeks and then the math.
Yeah,
So,
but some of it, like those.
So we've
and
got.
1 week is, the week before is the ELA, but
So-
that's only for like a couple hours in the morning.
Yeah,
so
but you're gonna
It's gonna
have,
be short classes though, right?
so
Or awkward scheduling.
Monday and Thursday, we don't test, but we're gonna be locked into one group of kids until lunchtime because 7th or 8th grade will be testing on Monday.
And some of my kids are, like my 2 super advanced classes will be doing Monday, Tuesday,
For
because
7th
they
grade
did a 7th
test,
grade
right?
test,
And I
so,
don't even have math first period, so I'm
so
not
that
gonna
will
have my
be
math kids.
a little more difficult.
Oh, but that'll change, cause it won't always be your first period
Gotcha.
kids, I think we're gonna try to figure out a way that might work out. And we've got the writing, the 6th, 7th, and 8th or 5th, 6th, and 7th of April. That's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so
How long does that one take roughly?
I'm gonna look, cause I took
120 minutes.
I
Something
took a
like that, I think
picture,
it's right.
I took a picture of, I think I took a picture, yeah, let me look here. So the writing, 8th grade will be on Tuesday, 6th grade's gonna be on Wednesday, and it's 8:35 to 10:45, so it goes all the way through lunchtime. So those will be days that, Tuesday and Thursday, we're going to probably be on a shortened afternoon schedule, so like, let's say we have our first period kids on Tuesday, but we have them all the way through, and then say Thursday, maybe we'll take our 3rd period kids or something, and then in the afternoon, we'll have 4, 5, 6, 7, but perhaps a shortened, no, we should be able to be on the same schedule.
Yeah, 4,
Those
5,
days.
6, 7
But we'll
should not
have
be
to-
affected,
So we'll have to just rotate 1st and 3rd
first and
period
third, yeah.
for those 2 days. So we'll have extended time, it'll be like the block scheduling we did that one year. And then when we get into reading, we've got, we test on May 3rd and May 4th. But we'll have kids on Monday, the 2nd, and Thursday, the 5th. So we might do the same thing, again, cause that block of time is gonna go through lunch. So we could probably do the same thing where we have first period on one of our non-testing days and 3rd period on the other. We do have to keep in mind that's a really long time when we're not testing in a
Mhm.
testing week, especially that, well, Monday we don't wanna burn them out before they have to be ready to go. And then
Also,
Thursday, so.
the days after FS reading, I wanna do something too, like,
Nothing-
they're gonna be done.
Yeah.
So do something more fun.
So we'll
More
have
like
to do
just review.
something, maybe more games, maybe,
Yeah, that's it.
maybe Sarah, you can share some other game ideas with us about how we can take review packets that we've done, and put them into some game style just to hold some attention. And then the next week would be the same thing, we test on Tuesday the 10th and Wednesday the 11th, and then we'll have Monday and Thursday not to test. But then we get into other, like civics is on the 16th, and science starts on the 17th, and we've got EOC, so even though we aren't testing, we're gonna be impacted, and I think we'll need to,
Scheduling wise.
we'll also need to talk, maybe not today, or maybe today, depending on what else we wanna, focus on, but, what to do after FSA to keep kind of reviewing standards,
I wonder,
so.
like those days that we know we're not gonna see our 3rd period, it's gonna be such a long block, could we put like a packet together and whoever their first period is, let them spend at least half the time working on this?
We tried that last year, I think it was last year, and it worked for some, with some teachers, and it didn't work with others. So what happens is, like a lot of my kids had PE, And then I was like, well, what are they supposed to be doing? And they're like, didn't necessarily send something. So I think if we maybe, we can work at maybe in our next grade level meeting, after break, about how can we utilize that time real effectively. But we also need to think of some other things that we can do, to prepare. Like, I know we've been doing the after-school homework time. Last year, I think Civics did an after-school boot camp
Yeah,
for
they had a
kids that
couple days of that.
participated in that, and I don't know whether we want to do something like that. You know, it does get selective of you've gotta have a ride, and
Yeah.
so how do we reach kids that can't get a ride? Or do we say, you know what, I'll work until 5 o'clock when some of these kids, you know, kids can't get picked up till 5 or 5:15, and I'll just give up one afternoon to stay a long time to be able to do that. But I think, I know
could
some
help
kids are,
some, but I couldn't stay every day.
right,
In
but if we
fact,
maybe,
pretty much all the way up through FSA. That's gonna be
And then we would want it to be one of us,
Math.
specifically if it's math.
somebody
Right.
who would know.
so, alright, so looking at a calendar,
I know, I personally, for me, because especially with my super advanced classes, there's not gonna be as much downtime. Luckily, my classes are all 5th and 7th period, so they should not be impacted by testing at all. Because
Because you see
we're
them
gonna
in
keep
the
scrambling
afternoon.
as far as we can go, so we can knock out, get them more familiar with what they're gonna see next year in algebra.
so, when we come back from break, are you still covering content, or are you
Yes.
done with all content?
Advanced has finished the green book. We're now gonna work into the orange book to knock out a couple more chapters
Okay,
that'll help them for next year.
and then
Pre-algebra.
how, in the past, Kendall, how much time did you give for straight review? Or did you blend it in while you were still teaching? Like, did you do half your class?
It was hard to do. I tried to do it 1 year, kind of blending it, and it's
It's
too
hard to do
difficult
that,
because
yeah.
they're looking at something they've never seen before, and then all of a sudden, then you take them away from it to put them back on something they know, and if they were getting kind of mixed up, so I usually just go like just 2 weeks.
Okay,
That's what I've got planned, I'm gonna knock out as much content, the
Content.
last chapter, like
That-
chapter
that
4 is
last-
gonna have to be a
That
little shorter.
last week of April and then that week of ELA stuff is.
I got
when
the
do
last
my-
2 in April, cause I figured that
I'm
week of-
thinking
It's gonna depend
the
on
last
how
two,
far I can get into my other stuff.
But I have started using the item specs as bell ringers, so we started reviewing and seeing FSA style questions for a little bit each day. But it's stuff that they have, it's stuff I've already covered, not the new stuff.
That's had Sage and I have been talking back and forth about what she would like them to see before they
before
come to
she
her.
gets her, before she gets
And
them.
I'm trying to figure out how to, I gotta piece part some of that stuff to be able to get as much of it into their, at least let them be exposed to it before they go to her, so it's not brand new.
So I think for my kids, less is more for them. So I need to stop a couple weeks in April, like I think you're gonna do too, starting on the 18th, and start putting them into some review things.
That's what I have planned.
The last 2 weeks.
Just, I think that, that first week of May is gonna,
It's gonna
Have to be
weird.
kinda
it's
light.
gonna- yeah, cause it's the reading and then the Monday and Thursday testing, I don't wanna run out of
That
time to
last
review
week-
what I wanna review.
That week is almost gonna have to be like just a Q&A kind of thing.
Mhm.
What do you have problems with? Let's talk about it instead of here, let's try brand new things that you haven't seen in 4 months.
Right.
I plan on, like, these 2 weeks where we have the full weeks to do like a, focused review, like focusing just on a few standards per day.
Yeah.
And then that week of where we start the FSA reading, it'll be like an all over, like you need
Catch
to be
up.
able to shoot, know
Get all the
what-
gaps and stuff, and nobody.
Or just,
remembers.
more like FSA, how this question is this standard, the next question's a totally different standard, so let them get some experience with that.
So I think then the other thing would be, since we do put a lot of energy into FSA, grading, we still need to come up with grades. So
Yeah.
are you guys, what are your thoughts about grading any of the review that they do?
Wow, I don't know how else we could do it, I've got 3 quizzes planned for the 4th 9 weeks. And that's not enough.
So then it would
Because
become,
We're only looking at 1, to 3 full guaranteed weeks. And then when it's over,
That's
you have
crazy.
like, at best, another week.
And I hate to take up too much of the time when now we have such a limited time before FSA. I don't wanna spend days.
And then there's gonna be STAR in there too somewhere.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
We don't know when that is.
whether STAR is going to be
It's
before our
never there yet.
I
FSA
would imagine April.
or after our FSA,
I bet it'll fall in one of those 2 weeks for read, which
so,
would be fun.
okay. So
Last year, was it even after?
I
We
think
did it like
we
at
did
the
it,
very, very
I
end,
think
like
we
after
did do it
FSA.
the last, like, it was reading, math, and then I think the next week we did STAR. The week, so for us, it would be the week of the 16th, which they may do reading one day and math another day that week. And don't count on having kids have laptops to take home starting on probably the 25th of April. So the whole month of May, they're gonna be needing to collect laptops because there aren't enough devices in the school. Remember last year they didn't test on their own devices, Kendall?
Yeah, I think they were talking about trying to actually have them.
Use their
I
laptops,
think that
but
was- I think
then
that's
they
the-
need
was
to
the
be
plan.
at school, so it's not, oh, it's not charged, and oh,
Yeah.
I don't have this, and I forgot it, and so, I went down to the office yesterday to talk with, a group about trying to brainstorm a little bit about how to deal with the technology for testing. And it sounds like they're gonna start collecting laptops the week of the 25th, so by the second, when they need them, there are laptops available.
The 25th, oh.
Yes, because we can't wait until we need them
Mhm.
May 2nd, and oh, I forgot mine, and then we don't have them, so
It's
So-
just
we would
basically-
have them perhaps in our rooms to use, but they would not be taking them home. So we just
So-
have to kinda keep that in
So
mind,
if that's
that,
the case, we may need to make sure nothing that you need for them is gonna, may not need to be on Teams, it might need not be paper-based
Right.
for a couple
Or if
weeks.
you're doing some kind of online, do that.
Cause I normally, like I have that countdown, they get a copy,
but there's a
but then I
digital.
post a digital copy on Teams, and then there's also a digital copy with the answers.
Now, a
So,
lot of our kids will have devices, and we can ask them about that. And so there would be a handful of kids that don't, and we could make sure that they had paper copies of the things that we're putting on Teams, whether it's the answer key or the actual, packet. So we can, just put that in the back of your mind, cause that's going to,
Or even, I mean, you
be
can
something
send the
that you
answer
talk
key
about.
out through Remind and they can look at it on their parents' phone or whatever. As long as they
That's
have a
a good
paper packet.
right, which the copier is gonna be going through a little toner.
It's already bad
So-
enough down here anyway.
So I said to Karen Wright, I said, make sure you order some more toner, because we're gonna probably be
No,
running
she's-
through it.
I don't think
in
she
the
needs
next
to
month.
order it, I think it's just on like auto refresh every time it, somehow like it knows,
Oh, okay.
and it gets shipped out not long before it runs
Well,
out.
expect a lot of shipments coming in. So, alright, so let's go back to the thought about, should we schedule days that we're willing to stay or able to stay after school for a longer period of time to meet with as many kids who wanna stay as possible, and then, I know you've got golf, so you're not gonna be
Yes.
able to spend an
It
afternoon.
starts as soon as we get back, all the way through like the beginning of May. first
Okay.
May.
And what are you thinking? Are you thinking of like a boot camp starting when we get back and being longer, maybe a few days a week, or doing like 1 or 2 weeks and like every day of those?
I don't know, I've never done one before, so I'm not sure.
I know.
I probably wouldn't do it the first week back, just because trying to get the word out and try to get an idea of how many kids are gonna stay, because I know you've got kids after school, so it means a lot of rearranging for you if you're gonna stay during the week. I think Friday is probably not going to be a highly attended time, so I think we need to look at maybe, I don't know, maybe Tuesday and Thursday, or Tuesday and Wednesday, or something like that, and depending on how many kids, do we both need to stay and each take a group, or do we,
Our last golf tournament is that Friday, the 29th of April, so that week, the week that ELA testing,
you could,
we're
you
not
could do
doing golf
something.
anymore, so yeah, that week I'm available.
And then think about like who would be, this would be invitation only, not just a free for all.
I don't know if you could do invitation only, because then somebody's like, well, why didn't you invite my child? That's why my child didn't do very well on that.
At Butler, they've always done that. I know, I've never heard of anybody complain, but I wasn't the principal, so I don't know if they heard stuff that I didn't hear. But my next thing was like, what do you focus on if it's invitation only? Because sometimes it would be the lowest 25, sometimes it would be the bubble kids, like these kids really gotta get up to this next level.
So what if we
Or,
did,
you know,
what if we, that makes me think, what if we did different days for different targets?
the only thing about that is if you're saying don't start till after this, and I've got, like, you're gonna have kids come on Tuesday for lowest 25, well, that's only 4 or 5 Tuesdays, is it gonna make a difference? Is it enough? 'Cause
Okay,
you know
so
they're
then
not
the-
gonna
Yeah,
go.
what if Tuesday's not the day they can do it?
Right.
Right, but then the flip side is you have a big range in your room. If Kendall's kids come for boot camp and my intensive math kids come for boot camp, that's really difficult to
To
deliver.
do all
No, I
that
think
same
we would
time.
need to
Information.
target one group, I just think that may
How
be
it-
the group that is targeted, not like, I don't know that we're gonna have the people or the time to do multiple different groups and make it
Right,
worth it.
For everybody.
I think we've really gotta target like who needs it the most, and who's gonna benefit from it, who's gonna come.
I think that's
I've
the
got
key.
kids that are gonna
Who's
come
gonna
and they're gonna
benefit
play,
from
and
it?
they
Yeah,
don't try in class, why do I wanna give them
This
time after school to
opportunity.
just
distract
cause mom
the
says I
others?
need to stay for
Right.
this, doesn't mean they're gonna try.
And those are the ones, if we make it open to everybody, that their parents are gonna want them to go, but they don't work when they're there, they're distracting others and.
So let's do that. Let's maybe each of us come up with a list of kids. How about if we look at a list, we each make a list of our bubble kids, and we each make a list of our lowest 25 percentile that we think would benefit from this.
This would not be your super advanced, obviously, cause it would be different
Yeah, there's.
standards,
Yeah, there's.
so it'd just be from your
seven
advanced
things,
class. And I would assume you would have less than
yeah. One would like to
us.
hope.
So why don't you write that down, Sarah, that we'll each make a list of our bubble kids that we think would benefit, so we can see how many kids we're talking about. And we'll each make a list of our lowest 25 percentile kids that we think would benefit. And then at our next meeting, we can look at those lists, figure out how many days we're gonna need to offer, and whether we'll have, we'll need, like if you take the bubble kids and I take the low kids, or we need to do it as the other way around, or just say we're available on these days, like we'll have to try to figure out.
Right.
And maybe maybe we can make up a slip to send home with those kids so we get feedback from parents, so we know these are the
Yes.
days I'm available to pick my child up at 4:30, so we can,
It's different, you know, in elementary, if it was like a permission slip, you had to have this signed, or this spot went to the next kid in line. And they
Well,
would cut
let's
it
do-
off, like, they had a list, and then it would, so say they were gonna let 25 go, but they had a list of 35 or 40, so when this kid doesn't bring it back or can't go, then the next kid gets the spot.
do you by chance have that letter, or can you get a copy of it?
Yes, I could get it.
Okay, so why don't you do that too, and then we can really look at it, cause I think we want parents to commit. Because if we're giving a slot to a kid, we don't want them to come once and say, well, I didn't like it, and the parents are like, oh, it's not worth the
It's not
battle.
supposed to
Yeah. And that way we can get a set group of kids that we can count on coming, that we can try to make that difference for them. Alright. So, you guys feel good about this? Okay.
We're still prepping for half a day,
Kinda,
Tuesday,
kinda.
Wednesday, yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday for first period.
Right.
Say that again.
It's like half time for first
Okay.
period, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, so
Okay.
split your paper instead of letting them have access to the whole thing.